Hi everyone, it's Stephanie with the Nina Mason Pulliam Eco Lab at Marian University. It's Earth Week and we are focusing on pollinators. So I thought that I would share a few tips and tricks with you if you're interested in putting a native bee house in your backyard. So there are a lot of options. You can buy insect houses, bee houses everywhere, but you want to make sure that you do your research before you buy one of those. A lot of times they're not really effective and they don't really do much, so you're kind of just wasting your money. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I use and the things that you'll need to have a bee house that actually works and helps our pollinators instead of hurts them. So I have a bee house frame. It's like a typical A-frame that I put the holes that they use for their nests in and I take out. So that's what I suggest. You can get houses that are pre-made, but basically you want to make sure that you get a house that it's easy for you to clean them out every year. That's the most important thing. If you're not able to clean them out every year, then you're just asking for disease transmission, parasites, mites, things like that. So you want to make sure that you're able to at least clean them out every year. Whether that's cleaning them out by hand. So I love these because they're easily opened. So this is for leaf cutters. Leaf cutter holes ideally are about 6 millimeters in diameter. Mason bees about 8 millimeters in diameter. So if you want to harvest your bees, don't worry, it's not scary. You're not eating them or harming them in any way. What some do is in the fall, they will harvest the cocoons and then put them in the refrigerator or keep them someplace safe, cold, until the springtime to let them out. You don't have to do that. If you don't do that though, the one thing you really want to do is make sure you clean these out after they've left. So this makes it really, really easy. You can clean them out, put them right back, put my rubber band around it, put it back outside, and it's done. My house can stay where it is. I don't have to take it down. This works out really well. Another thing that you can use is cardboard tubes, pre-made cardboard tubes. So did I mention, I get this from Crown Bees. They have a lot of resources and a lot of really cool educational resources for you. So even if you're not sure you want to purchase anything right now, go to their website and you can learn a little bit more about what fits your yard and what you want to do. So another option is cardboard tubes. Again, these are for leaf cutters, so about 6 millimeters in diameter. These you want to make sure you replace every year. So that's another reason why I like this one, because I'm using the same thing over and over every year. So I'm using less resources. These you have to replace every year. So once they've come out, or if they didn't use it, if something happened, there's mold, whatever, you want to make sure you replace those every year. So it depends on if you want to do mason bees or leafcutter bees or a variety of bees. You can have a variety of sizes of cardboard tubes, or what I did this year, because I had some time on my hands, I cut up some of the stems, all of these, from my garden. So I don't clear my garden until spring, late spring, because my garden is an insect house. So insects, bees, a lot of those species really need hollow stems, dead stems, or not hollow stems. They might drill into non-hollow stems, but they need these. And so what we do is we clear all that out in the fall. Well, they don't have any overwintering habitat, so that's really important. So one of my bee houses is my gardens. I just let things go until the spring. I'll cut them down and I'll lay them in my compost pile, and that way if anybody's in there, they can come out when they need to. So I took some stems. I have Joe Pyeweed and Queen of the Prairie are great hollow stems. So I cut them at about 6 inches. That's about the size that you want for either mason or leafcutter bees. And I'm going to put those in one of my houses this year. So we'll see what happens. So you want to make sure that you have the right habitat for them, so that way they can, lay their eggs and make their nests, and then also that you can clean them out. But you also want to make sure that you have the right type of housing. So this is kind of an example of that. So you want to make sure you have kind of like an awning over it. So when you place them outside. You want to place them in an area where it gets morning sun, and you want to make sure that your house has this kind of awning over it. And the only thing I would say about this is that you want to make sure you see how the tubes are flush with the front of the house. You'd actually want to have about an inch of space there before those tubes got there, because that'll just help with any of the wind, the rain, things like that. Also, if you want to put like a metal mesh over the front of it so that way the birds can't get to them, that gives a little space they can't get there. One word of caution, I see this design a lot, putting holes into a piece of wood. That's fine, but again, you're not going to be able to clean those out. So when you don't clean that out, you're just asking for disease issues. And so if you are putting things out like this for bees, you want to make sure you maintain it at least a little bit and that you're able to clean it out every year. So let's talk a little bit about mason bees and leafcutter bees and native bees. So a lot of times when I say bees, people are a little, bees, they're stingy, right? So they are stingy. The females can sting, but most of our native species are actually solitary. So they don't have a hive to protect. So each leafcutter bee, each female leafcutter bee, each female mason bee has their own hole and are doing their own thing. So they're gregarious in that you could have several mason bees or several leafcutter bees building their nests within the same area, but they do their own thing. So they don't really have anything to protect, so they're less stingy, right? So I could stand right in front, if this is my mason bee house, I could stand right in front of it, and other than like bonking me in the head because they're like, where did that big tree come from? They're not aggressive in any way. So just to kind of calm your fears on that, they don't create hives. They have less to protect. Now, if you grabbed one and pinched one, they might give you a sting, but you really have to work hard on it. And while I'm looking at this right now, so I had a moment of weakness, right? So it's super cute, right? But not very efficient. Didn't work at all. So like I mentioned, there's no like awning or lip here, and the tubes are flush with the front. So what happened was it just got too wet. And I looked at it, and if you can see that here, that's just mold. Nobody did anything in here, and I just grew a bunch of mold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these tubes. I'm going to put it in an area where I have a little breezeway that it can be guarded from the weather, rain, wind, things like that. But it does get some morning sun, and see if that works. I could also build a little structure to put it in, and that might help too. But it's really cute, right? But again, just because it's cute and it's made for bees doesn't mean it's really going to work. So other things that you'll want to keep in mind. So, okay, you have the house, you put it somewhere appropriate. Then what? Well, you have to make sure that you have a food source available, right? So native plants are the best, and a variety of native plants, and flowers that bloom throughout the season. So early spring for those mason bees. So flowering trees and shrubs are great for mason bees early in the spring, and then all the way through summer, and then into the fall. You want to make sure you have blooms, and ideally native plants, and a variety of native plants. The more variety you have, the more diversity you have, the more species you will be able to attract. You'll also want to have, for mason bees in particular, clayey type mud, which here in central Indiana, that's what we have. We have clay soil, so we're pretty good here. Other places you might have to amend the soil a little bit near their house, but here we're probably fine. I mentioned a variety of nesting holes, so different sizes if you want to create habitat for other species. And I'll say too, so I've had lots of different species of bees, but then of other species. So I had a tiny little wasp one time put several different nests in one of the holes. So you might have other things too. Again, yes, there are social wasps that tend to be a little more aggressive because they have a nest to protect. But there are a lot of solitary wasps too, all of them beneficial for different reasons. But I was really thrilled to be able to find them. I didn't know what they were, and I put them in the fridge, and then I put them outside in the spring, and I found them come out, and they were these tiny little wasps, super, super cute. So you might attract lots of different things. Make sure that you have a healthy yard that's free of, well, lawn care chemicals and things like that. So the less pesticide, the better, right? So the less insecticide, especially, the better. So bees are insects. So if you use an insecticide to kill another insect, you're probably going to hurt the other insects too, which would be bees. So the less chemicals and fertilizer you use on your yard, the better. And like I said, lots of diversity, lots of plants, less turf grass, and more food for the bees. Now, when we're talking about leafcutter bees, that means leaves too, right? So they cut little pieces of leaves off, and that's what they use to line their nests. So they need to have lots of different leaves to choose from as well. And some of those are specialists, and they might specialize on a certain species or not. But just make sure that you have a variety of things, and you should be able to support lots of different types of insects, and especially bees. The last thing I wanted to talk about were some of the resources. So I'll just mention a few books here. The Bees in Your Backyard is one of my most favorite books. I use this all the time. I've learned so much about the bees in my backyard. It's great for identification. It's great for just learning about bees and their where they live, how they live, all these different things. So I really suggest this book. It's probably my most favorite bee book. It tells you all about North American bees. And then another one is Attracting Native Pollinators. So this will help you to attract more pollinators. So yes, put the bee house out, but how else can you attract more and then provide habitat for? So this is a really great resource here. So I think that's all I had. Thank you for joining me, and good luck in your bee house adventure. Happy Earth Week.